Can Black people be racist? The other day, I was confronted by a close friend of mine, who tried to try me about a situation. Now, let me just rewind. I was super already emotional regarding the death of Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace, Nipsey. So that was definitely not the time to try me. And I was posting a bunch of videos that referred to a lot of things that were happening in the States to Black people, done by white people or of other people of color as well. And I guess she got offended by my post and decided to confront me about it. She messaged me on Instagram and she said, "I think you're not noticing how racist you're coming off. It's a lot. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but you are sounding like you hate all white people. Less hate, more love. That's what it should be. Can't group a bunch of people over a few. And if that wasn't your goal, that's what it's coming off as." Number one, none of these posts are directly from me. These are already on the internet. And you know what? I'm talking to you because you tried it. I hate when people come at other people about important matters going on in the world and they are not informed and they are not educated. If you do not know something about a very serious worldly issue that has been going on for centuries, please do not speak on it. So let me just break it down. And this was my response to her in a nutshell. Okay, so
you made a bunch of videos.
Yeah, so I made a bunch of videos back to her, snapping. Everyone was like,
Shalisa's fire.
Black, for the people. And I was basically saying that I think I understood what she was saying in terms of, because later on in the conversation, she tried to say that Black people can be racist. And I said, no, they cannot. I'm like, maybe you mean that Black people can be prejudiced because of the treatment that we receive from white people, and that way, in return, we treat them a certain way. But we cannot be racist because we come from racism. And racism is not just individual attacks against another race, but it's also systematic. We are controlled by racism. We cannot get certain jobs because of racism. We cannot walk into a store and not get eyes on us and assume that we're stealing because of racism. So you can't tell me that Black people are racist.
So let's go to the definition of racism, okay? The definition of racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Now, by definition, yes, any race can be racist, but we needed to break it down more. So as Black people, we cannot be systematically racist because
we come from it.
We
don't have control. The difference is we don't have control and we don't have power. So we have no type of place in this world to tell someone what to do or to tell someone, no, I'm not doing this, without receiving a type of punishment.
I asked our viewers, can Black people be racist? And thank you for everyone that gave me a response. They were actually lovely really and detailed response, yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read a few of them. One person came to me and said 100% Black people can be racist. I realize that there is a stigma that because they are Black, they cannot be. But one of my close friends has a friend that hates brown people. They hate certain religions that they believe in. They constantly say how they fucking hate Muslims. And they wish that they think that things would be better if Muslim people weren't around, and that disgusts me. They can be racist toward other Blacks as well, but mainly it's toward a different ethnicity.
Racist is not the word, it's prejudice.
Yes.
Do we have the definition of prejudice?
We have the definition of prejudice.
Let's
Prejudice means to have a preconceived opinion that is not based on a reason or actual experience. For example, if you're on a plane and you see someone with a turban, automatically you have that preconceived opinion that, or you have that fear because of an event such as 9/11, right? Or that people with turbans are automatically terrorists. So you already have that preconceived opinion based on the turban, but you're not looking at the person themselves, you know? So you're grouping all those people together.
It's an opinion. It's a perspective on somebody. Exactly. It's not no type of control thing.
And then another person went on to say that by definition, meaning that any race can be racist towards another race. But what you're probably talking about is another term that is valid, but the definition of racism itself would include any race being racist to any race. For example, white people being racist to Mexicans. However, by the definition itself, which is just based on his opinion, does not include the amount of racism a race has taken, which is very important. Because I feel that Black people and Native people have received the most type of racism since the beginning of time, and it's just like everyone says, oh yeah, like racism is over and things like it's at a high right now.
And that goes back to the comment. So she continued in the conversation by saying, you know, you should be careful about your white friends who may be offended by this post. What does that have to do with me? I'm not a part of that group who has oppressed your people. Now let me tell you, honey, what it has to do with you. If you don't have no type of organization, no type of business, no type of movement that brings light to this situation, because there are events today going on right now. Actually, today I just heard that there was a Black boy hung in Texas. How is this happening in 2019? It doesn't make sense. If you don't have a movement bringing light to the situation, you are not making a change and you are not making a difference. Therefore, you are responsible for our oppression and our suffering. Until you make a move, don't at me.
And it doesn't even you don't even have to be like bashing white people as a white person, you know, but it's just bringing light to the situations that are going on. Don't be so closed-minded, because these situations are real.
And she wasn't being real with herself, because she was also saying that you know, oh, more love, less hate. But guess what, honey? Yes, we all want more love, less hate. But that ain't happening right now. That's not happening anywhere in this entire earth world right now. Do you see what's going on in the news? There are worse incidents happening that are off of the news because they don't want to bring attention to it, because it's that detrimental, that severe to people in this world. So as much as we want love and peace, joy, sunflowers, it ain't happening. So we need to bring this shit to light, to enlighten people and wake them up and know that this shit is not okay. It's not okay.
Another comment, which is from my fellow white girlfriend, shout out my girl. She said that, so again, she went back to the definition of racism. So she said, based on this, anyone can be racism, regardless of your skin color. Mm-hmm. But now, when it comes to being racist towards white people, I don't believe that can happen, as white people have never been oppressed a day in their lives. Therefore, they cannot experience racism. White people have not, nor will they ever experience systematic racism, as they have always been considered the dominant group in society. Just by being born white, it automatically changed my social positionality and where I stand in society. So the last comment that I want to share is from one of my guy friends, and he went into so much detail. I really appreciated it. He started off again by defining the term of racism, and then he went on to say that yes, it's possible for Black people to be racist. Are Black people generally racist though? No. Why? Being racist implies that you were brought up in an environment that ingrained the concept of that superiority into every fiber of your being. An environment that is blissfully ignorant of the hardships and suffering endured by those that don't share the same skin tone. Mm-hmm. A society where other cultures need to work twice as hard to even be considered for a position you would otherwise be handed to with minimal effort.
I.e., if we walk in with some type of dreadlocks in our head, that's an automatic no.
Yep.
I just had an interview at this like hair studio just to be like a receptionist, and it was all white people. You know, like, is there any colored people here? Like, because I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna get the job because like it's all white people. Like, I have less of a chance. And she's like, yeah, like there's there's one girl from India.
Okay.
Like,
He goes on.
I didn't get the job. Okay, I didn't get the job. Why? I mean, I think I was the best candidate, but
they're scared. That's how I see it. So he went on to say that a law system that views even the most cruel of your crimes as mental illness / psychological imbalance, but can sentence someone of a darker complexion to life in prison for something as trivial as petty theft. Black people are not racist, nor do they have the capacity to be, at least when it comes to white folks, because that very mentality is a result of being raised into adopting that belief. Mm-hmm. Every Black person, regardless of their current wealth or status, has at some point been looked down upon for their background. Mm-hmm. And that very stigma disables the ability to be racist, because to do so, you first need to be raised in an environment of absolute advantage. Mm-hmm. Most Black people are not. The term disgust, to a certain extreme, hatred, malice, best describes how Black people feel towards white people, because these emotions are fueled by frustration, disappointment, and anger we have experienced whenever society reminds us of how different life can be based merely on our skin color. Mm-hmm. The frustration of working your ass off for an interview and doing the uttermost only for your Caucasian competition to be granted the position, even though it's clear that you're more qualified. The disappointment of witnessing so many Black lives being taken, snatched away by so-called defenders of the law, mm-hmm. who then typically get off without even a slap on the wrist. Yes. And the seething anger of being able to do so much to not being able to do anything about it. You can't do anything about it.
So this is a great segue into something I post on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me at shalisaMarieRadio.com. And basically, I shed light on a case that's going on right now with a Black man named Albert Wilson.
So sad.
And he was basically charged with rape against...
Okay, let's break it down. So first, he's 20 years old. He's 20 years old, okay? And he gets let into a bar because his friend gave him an ID, okay? A white girl, she's 17 years old. She doesn't get... Like, they didn't ask her for her ID to enter the bar. She gets in, okay? Then they're hitting it off, whatever. They have a room in the bar called the Boom Boom Room. Mm-hmm. That in itself is so questionable. And they go in there. Were they hooking up? I'm not sure.
I don't want to say. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if they went in there or not.
I just know that they went home.
Yeah. So the cameras catch them walking home hand in hand. Doesn't look like he's forcing her to do anything at all. And it was in a 20-minute period that they went to his house and came back. Mm-hmm.
And she basically said that he was harassing her, you know, like their interaction wasn't...
But she was belligerent.
And her entire story did not match what was on camera. And basically, she obviously said that he raped her. Now, they bring out the rape kit now, and no type of evidence came back from the rape kit. But he got sentenced to 12 years, and he also has to register as a sex offender when he comes out of jail. So I'm just trying to compare the difference between how much of a difference
is failing us.
How much of a difference skin color means to society and us as Black people.
Brock Turner, he so there was a girl that was passed out behind the dumpster, and he raped her. He was raping her, and two cyclists were driving by, were riding their bikes and seen him doing that. So they got off the bike, and he seen them and started running. So they ran after him, tackled him to the ground, and they held him down till the police came. So they had evidence. 2 witnesses that witnessed the whole thing, and the woman was unconscious. And what did he get?
3 months.
3 months because
and
the
also,
judge,
yes,
the judge said that he doesn't think that he's a crime. He'll be harmful to society.
Got off.
Am I the idiot? Like, I don't ever understand.
Back to our thesis, Black people can't be racist.
Like, how does that make sense?
Next topic, slavery. This is where we come from. Get your damn juice. What is slavery? A system of forced labor began in the 17th century when people were forced to leave their native land, culture, and family behind. It basically started out during, the 17th century, where the British, the French, and the Portuguese were all forced to be slaves to the war. They basically got members ages... I just want to make sure, don't mind if I'm looking down. I just want to make sure everything is politically correct so nobody checks me, because I want to make sure everybody understands this. They selected healthy males and females, ages 18 to 35, children as well, and they were selected by the slave traders. They were chained.
They were put in boats. Yeah, they were put in boats. They were chained. And
it took 4 to 8 weeks to get to the location that they were trying to get to.
And they were at the bottom of the ship. So I've never been in the bottom of a ship, but I know that it's hot. If it's leaking, then there's water coming through. So you're living in, what's the word?
In a slum?
Yeah, in a slum.
You're dehydrated.
There's rats and whatever fucking else animals that they have running around because it's dirty. You might get water once a day, maybe. Food, who knows? Like, I can only imagine the living conditions that they were running. And it was so bad that people were willing to commit suicide. And the chance that they get, they're jumping ship.
Yeah, they were leaping off the ship. They would drown themselves, whatever they could do to get out of
probably
that
hanging themselves with
nasty-ass situation. By 1763, there was 230,000 African slaves, okay? And just think about it. Like, they're forcing them to do work, first of all, they don't want to do. They're not getting, imagine doing hard labor and you're not getting paid for it. You're not getting no vacation pay. You're not getting days off. You're working very, very long hours. You're not getting, anything really to drink. And that kind of goes into, let's just introduce the alcohol part into this part at the same time. Alcohol came from slavery. Why?
Because they made them brew it, but also the slave masters would introduce alcohol for wedding events if slaves were getting married to each other, stuff like that. But also they would give it to them and make sure that they get belligerent, so drunk, just so that they could turn around and say, this is why Black people don't deserve freedom. But let's just go back a little bit. Imagine you are minding your own business, living your life, okay? Creating, growing with your family, the people around you, enjoying your life. And then people come that you've never probably seen or met before with guns and alcohol, because Black people in Africa didn't know guns before the white people brought it there. Black people in Africa didn't know alcohol before white people brought it there. And so these people come, try to pin you against other people from your culture, take away things from you, saying that they're going to kill your family, if probably kill your family in front of you, just to say, okay, now do you want to listen and work for me? And
that has a lot to do with Black on Black crime today, because there were Black people inside the house and outside of the house. And also the whites would come to your property or your land and try to take your goods. And if you wanted your goods back, they asked you to provide them with the members of your family who are Black, so they can use them for whatever they need to use them for. And that's how this whole hatred and jealousy and like, how dare you, and so many, death came out of those types of trades. So, and that moves on to today in the 20th century, where now there's Black on Black crimes and men are just shooting each other like they're not
and
brothers
fighting over the project and stuff like that. Like, you're
which is owned by
the government,
the white man.
You're killing,
it's not yours.
You're killing a person your brother, a person of the same color as you, to defend a turf that's owned by the government.
Think about it.
We need to wake up.
Stupid.
Because
pointless.
It's so stupid, but like that just goes to show like you really have nothing to live for, or like your life is so bad that's
no,
what
you're too worried about the other person instead of worrying about yourself and your own progress. That's the problem. You're jealous. Jealousy is self-hatred. So you need to figure out, first of all, there's room for everyone to win. No matter if you are oppressed, there's a way out. And there are many high figures that we look at or that we look to who have gotten out of a bad situation, like Nipsey Hussle. So there's no need to be jealous of the other man, because the same way he can attain success and riches is the same way you can attain success and riches.
But at the same time, it's easier said than done, because
that's not an excuse though.
But when you're hopeless,
that's not an excuse. I don't give
any little gratification that you're gonna get from someone in your gang, because like that's all that's coming out of life.
I get it.
Or when you
gotta
have that
change
mentality,
your mindset.
Exactly. But again, it's easier said than done. Like, if that's all you know, and that's all you've grown up with, your uncles, your dad, if you even have your dad in your life, like your cousins, that they're all doing the same thing, you're gonna run with it, right? Like, what?
You gotta wake up.
That's all you know.
You gotta wake up. And I hate when people use their upbringing as an excuse of not to change. I get it. You're brought up in an environment where, it's this A, B, and C, and you can't get out of it because you're basically brainwashed by that type of living. But eventually you grow up and you become an adult, and you are no longer just inside of that household. You have friends, you have people who you watch, who may be on a different journey than you. I'm pretty sure you have influences around you, people who inspire you. Like, use that as a way to better yourself. Don't use the excuse of, oh, I grew up this and that, and I can't get out because of this and that. That's not, figure it out. Build a business, sell some shit, make some money, and invest it into a company or your own business. That's your way out. Then build something else on top of that, and then provide opportunities for others. I don't think that, I get it though. I get it. It's hard. It's easier said than done, but also just try to choose wisely, We're going to go back into the 18th century now, after they were moved. The slaves were transported. And this is where cotton came about. I'm really bothered by this topic right now. The 18th century, cotton. So the textile industry was basically in need of laborers because there was a rapid growth in the textile industry in both England and the US. So now they were trying to find slaves to pick the cotton so they can sell material. By the 18th century, remember in the 17th century, there was 230,000 slaves. Now, moving to the 18th century, there was now 4 million African slaves in the U.S.
Yeah, just take a moment for that.
Working for free under horrible conditions, being whipped for something. I'm being whipped, but I am doing your work for you.
And the way the laws were set up back then, you, as a black person, if you got whipped, you couldn't file a complaint about it.
Black people were also seen as not human in the law. I don't know what book. I'm going to put it here right now just to show you guys. We were seen as non-human, and we could not go to the courts for any type of situation. We were literally degraded systematically, even back then, degraded and not able to find a way out. We don't have any type of power, nothing. And the thing is, everybody in this world wants to be black. These white girls have some braids in their head,
some lip fillers,
some ass fillers,
a Brazilian butt lift.
But when it comes to this topic, now nobody wants to be black. No. Because nobody wants to take the time to analyze the history of the black people and understand and try to bring light. But everybody wants to be black till it's time to be black. Where do we go from here? So the treatment that they received was horrendous. The slaves were just completely like destroyed by these slave masters. If they were ordered to do a task that was dangerous, they had to do it. And if they didn't do it, obviously they would be punished. And during these times, that's where, spoken narrative and spoken word and music came into play, because that was their way of healing.
Yeah, so that's the history of black slaves. Not all of it.
That's not all of the history, but we were just trying to give you a confined synopsis of where we have come from. That is not even half of everything that has happened, and even like revolutions that have happened in that time, in that place, such as Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. They were involved in attacking the slave owner and freeing the slaves. So they basically raided his home and killed the town's mayor, seized several hostages, and in return, they were hung because they got caught. Yeah, they were hung. So, I mean, the revolution still continues.
Switching gears a bit, let's get into some news articles just to bring more light and let you guys know about some things that you probably don't know about because you haven't heard about it in mainstream news. So, CBC News let out a report about police killings, and they gave a bit of data. So, they have data from The Counted, and it states that it states that 1,146 police killings happened in 2015 alone. People of color take up 38.5% of the population. This is in America. And 51.5% of people of color's lives were lost between 2015 and 2016. Shockingly, though, Native Americans were the highest of those killed at a rate of 7.8 per 1 million people, with African Americans at a rate of 7.2 per million. And shockingly, but not so shockingly, white Americans were killed at a rate of 2.9 per 1 million people. 2.9.
No comment.
Okay. In Canada, the Alberta Civil Liberties Research Center was talking about the education system. And I quote, it's saying that the school curricula claims to be inclusive and representative. And yes, there have been improvements, but still, Indigenous and Black students aren't engaged because the curricula is still developed based on white, middle class, Western foundational perspectives.
And I think that's in university too, to be honest.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say, so, for example, the story of Canada, how Canada came about, remains a white person's story. But now Indigenous people and Black people have been added in. So we don't get in history class, and I can agree, you guys can agree with this too because you've all been through Canadian history. You don't get the Native person side of the story of how Canada came about. You don't get the Black person side of the story of how Canada came about. Why? Because our history, Native people's history, were burned. We don't have a history.
It's us.
We don't have a history.
It's us. They took from our land, and Indigenous land.
Exactly. And then going back into the Americas, I seen this on MSNBC the other day because my mom, that's the only thing she watches. So if we go back into the States, we have individuals like Betsy DeVos, who is the United States Secretary of Education. So during the when Obama was president, they had the Obama era initiative program, which was to reduce racial imbalance in school discipline, and she revoked it. And the report, there was a report that came out from the Columbia Law School Center of Intersectionality and Social Policy Studies, which found that Black girls are 6 more times likely to be suspended, whereas Black boys were 3 times more likely to be suspended in school. So, this being revoked creates a school to prison pipeline, right? Mm-hmm. And it creates a mentality where Black people, boys especially, think that they need to die or rep or protect a turf or housing complex that's owned by the government. Mm-hmm. Because
stay woke. Don't let them control you.
So just couple of things to think about. Honestly, we have some people riding for us, but there's a lot of people that don't want to see us come up.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because it's fear because of what happened in history. Yes, like what if Black people did one day get up and start a revolution? White people would be shook. And they have a reason to have that guilty conscience because they have that reason to feel that fear because they have such a guilty conscience. Mm-hmm. Right? This has been a lot of information thrown at you guys all at once. Thank you for listening through the whole thing.
If you are still here
you are still here with us. If you are still here with us, we just want to end it with Malcolm X. If you don't know who Malcolm X is, he was a Black Muslim. And he believed that the white man was the devil and that Black people were superior. So, yes, by definition, you could say he was a racist. But that was until April 1964. He went to Mecca and he made Hajj, which was something that changed his life forever. And he wrote about it. He wrote a letter and documented his experience. And he tells about the tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world of all colors, all displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood. Which was something that he thought that he could never experience between the white man and the non-white man because he lived in America. And sorry, I wrote it in my journal.
It's okay.
He said, and I'm reading this word for word. Despite my firm convictions, I have been always a man who tries to face facts and to accept the reality of life as new experience and new knowledge as it unfolds. He emphasized keeping an open mind and being flexible as necessities and in the intelligent search for the truth. Reading this letter, you can tell how mind-blown he must have been, especially in the 60s. He drank from the same cup, he slept in the same bed, and ate from the same plate from individuals of the bluest of bluest eyes and the whitest of white skin. And he felt the same serenity from the Black African Muslims that he was amongst. Mm-hmm. He ends by saying, "We are all truly the same, brothers." Okay? We're all the same.
And until the man with power acknowledges that, ain't shit gonna change. So, guys, let's stay woke.
And try to make a change.
Let's make a change, make a difference. Just like we're having a conversation, create a conversation amongst your people. Spread the word, man. Educate yourself. If you're gonna argue about something, if you're gonna state facts, make sure you're coming with some facts.
And as a Black person, I think that it's okay to be angry about what happened.
Yeah, sorry, this episode, my face is probably going to look super salty. And I just want to warn you guys right now. I'm not I'm just, this topic, it's been going on for too long. And there's no change to it. It's always going to continue. I don't think it will ever end. I don't know. I don't think it will. So... yeah.
So it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to be angry, obviously, at the situation. Don't be angry at a person, at an individual, per se. but it's okay to be angry at the situation. Just like for a white person, it's okay to fear the black person because of what we were capable of. We are freaking strong ass people, and I feel like every race, every ethnicity was put on this earth for a reason, right? We all bring something to the table that's different. So I feel like we should acknowledge that and lift that up instead of beating one another down
and degrading one another when we're all the same
for surface things.
Yes, that's the great way to put it. For surface things that will not be carried along with you in eternal life. So good luck.
This is Shalisa Marie Radio.
Episode 30.
This is a special episode. Episode 30.
And we out. Black people are gang. Shalisa Marie Radio.